Okay. Let's now move on and look at the linear trend line. Linear trend line. Linear trend line. Linear trend line. Now let's look at this data here. We have our periods. We have our demands. Our periods are represented with X. Our demand is represented with Y. Now we have our XY. That is, we are multiplying the X by the Y. And then we have our X squared. What it means is that we are squaring all the values of the X here. So 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared, 6 squared, 7 squared, 8 squared, 9 squared, 10 squared, 11 squared, 12 squared. That is what is giving us the values here. Now you realize that at the bottom of it, we are summing the value. So we sum the value of X, sum the value of Y, sum the value of XY, sum the value of X squared. Are we okay? So we do all of that. Now you realize that from that data, we are supposed to come up with a linear trend line. We are supposed to come up with a linear trend line. We are supposed to come up with a linear trend line. Now to do that, we need to know the values of some of the variables. We need to know the value of some of the variables. Now, when we talk of a linear trend line, is basically we are trying to find the value of Y is equal to A plus BX. So this is what we are basically trying to find. Y is equal to A plus BX. So from this data, we know what Y is. There are values for Y, there are values for X. We need to find the value of A, also find the value of B. Then we can now substitute it here to come up with a linear trend line. The line that helps us to predict future. Now let's start. To do that, first of all, we need to be able to know our X bar. That's the mean of X and then the mean of Y. The mean of X and then the mean of Y. How do we get the mean of X and then the mean of Y? The mean is just the total divided by the number of observations. So for the X, the total here was 78. So it's basically 78 divided by 12. That gives us 6.5. Now our Y bar, which is the mean of Y, the total of Y was 557. So it's 557 divided by 12. That gives us 46.42. Now, once we have our values for X bar, we have our values for Y bar, we can then proceed to find the value of B. Now, take notice of the formula for B. Look at the formula for B. Take notice of the formula for B. Take notice of the formula for B. It's giving us summation of X, Y. Now, this is XY. The summation of XY is 3867. So you realize that we have our 3867 minus N. Our N was the sample size. The whole N here was 12. So minus 12 into bracket the mean of X multiplied by the mean of Y. You realize that the mean of X was 6.5. The mean of Y was 46.42. All divided by summation of X squared. We squared our X's here, and then the sum there was 650. The sum there was 650. So you realize that we have divided by 650 minus N, our N was still 12, into bracket X bar squared, mean of X squared. X was 6.5, so 6.5 squared. And once we do our calculations, you realize that our B becomes 1.67. Our B becomes 1.67. Our B becomes 1.67. Our B becomes 1.67. So now let's try to find the B, the A. We know our B here. Let's find the A. The A is given as this formula. The A is given as this formula. The A is given as y bar minus bx bar. So without knowing the value of B, we'll never be able to know the value of A. So our y bar was 46.42. That's the mean of y. Minus our B was 1.72 multiplied by our x bar. Our x bar was 6.5. That gives us 35.2. So our trend line here will now be y is equal to, our A was 35.2 plus our B was 1.7 to x. So this becomes the linear trend line. This becomes the linear trend line. So if we want to predict a value for period 13, for example, you can clearly see that all the periods here were up to period 12. So the x was up to 12. So if we are finding the value for when x is equal to 13, all we'll do is that we'll come and substitute the value of the x here, and that is 13. It means that the demand there, the y here will be for period 13 will now be 57.57. 57.57. That becomes the demand for the next period of 13 there. That becomes the demand. Any question on this? Any question on this? Yeah, Christian Asafo.
Hey, Mr. Isa is Christian.
It's the same thing.
Please, good
Christian
morning.
and Christian, they are the same thing. Good morning.
Isa, please, the formula for the B
Okay.
is summation of y minus n x bar y bar
Yes.
over summation of x square minus n. Is this one also x bar or negative 2?
It's x bar squared. It's x bar
Okay,
squared, not x minus
because
2.
it's like,
So it's
okay,
x bar
right.
squared.
Thank you.
X bar squared. Nanaya.
Please, yes, please, you said if we want to go to period 13, then we have to add a figure to the 54 to get the, I couldn't get the figure you were talking about.
So can you
Please,
see there's no period 13 here?
yeah, yeah,
But
because
looking at this data, we've been able to predict. We have a trend line that can tell us what the Y for 13 will be, what the Y for 14 will be, what the Y for 15 will be. So let's assume we want to find a value in period 13. Are you okay?
yeah,
So what happens is that it becomes our Y, which is equal to 35.2 plus 1.72 into bracket. Remember we said we want to find for period 13. And period 13 would have been an X. Can you see it's under the X? The periods are represented as X. Can you see that?
yeah,
So it means we are trying to find your X is equal to 13. But can you see in the trend line, the 1.72 was multiplying by X.
yeah.
And then this time around, our X is 13.
Okay.
So what do you get? Try to punch this on your calculator and see what you get.
Okay. The answer is 57.56.
Okay. Is it not the same thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else has issues? Otherwise, we'll continue.